Well, hello and welcome back now to our dining room. I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Brandon Atkins.
Hello, everyone.
And I hope that you enjoyed that concert. And so a couple of things, a couple of housekeeping things. The cake did get finished. So if you just want to head on over, we'll have a piece ready for you at the door. You can just drive by, we'll throw it in the window. We've also got a little Girl Scout
Thin
mint ice cream to go with it. Highly recommended. And this guy is the best at making old fashioned. Cheers to all of you. So first, I have some thank yous. While we were there performing, the following people donated. Thank you so much to Barry Kelsey, Michelle Scott, Jennifer McKim, Patty Bezaire, Nicole Alexander, David Langstone and Sherry Cunningham, Cynthia Swift, Susan McKee, another Susan McKee. There are two Susan McKees. Marilyn Stetcher, Joanne and Tom Hughes, Darren Stanley, Sam Frazier, principal bassoon of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, Christine Vanderkoy, Gail Stifler, and Vicki Frederick. Thank you all. Thank you for doing that. We are so appreciative of that. For this, our first in a series of our Windsor Symphony Orchestra at home events that you can see. So a couple of questions did come in. Oh, do you want to taste it? First of all, we got to taste it.
You can talk all you want, but I'm going to eat.
Okay.
Talking.
Well, tell them how it is.
So here's my bite. It's all right. It's delicious.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about our technical difficulties. As you know, it is a whole new world out there. All right, so we got a few questions in. First of all, how many cakes were made in prep for this? This is actually my third cake that I've made this week. So we've had a lot of flourless chocolate cakes. So really, I mean it when I say just drive by the house and we'll toss a piece into your car as you drive by. What was the process like putting all of this together? So like many orchestras around Canada, around North America, we're all trying to figure out how to work in our new environment. That's why when the Windsor Symphony Orchestra started putting together this thought of, well, how do we reach people virtually? There were many sides to it. There's the content side, putting the music together. The CFM, the Canadian Federation of Musicians, has been enormously helpful in working with us to put together these streams with our musicians and their incredible talent. But there's also been new content that's had to be developed. So we've been doing that. Simultaneously, our team has been working on the whole technical side of putting on one of these things from our homes. You know, at the Capitol Theater, we do have a TV studio, a little production studio, but we don't in our home. So all of us have had to sort of learn new software, develop new skills, and we're all becoming TV editors and film editors as we sort of go. It's sort of the way of the world today. So that was really the process. And over the last 6 weeks, once we decided we wanted to do this event this evening, then it was a matter of putting all of those pieces in place. We did rehearse this a few times this week, not online. Just to sort of figure out how it sort of all fit together. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, more nervous making the cake and preparing for the cake making than actually conducting a concert at the Capitol Theater. That I do all the time and feel super comfortable with. This, I was making sure, what if the eggs aren't in the right place at the right time, or if I burn something? You know, anything could happen. But I have to say that this cake, which I made yesterday, is delicious. The one that's in the kitchen that I just took out of the oven, very good. All right, so I have some more questions. Okay, so Brandon, you are an epidemiologist, and the question is, what is it like living with an epi during these times? And I know the question is really a little bit to me, but I'm gonna throw it over to you in a second, in the sense that what I've seen you do is have to really sort of buckle down and sort of figure out how to help people be cautious without being scared. What's that process like for you?
It's getting out appropriate information. So what we found over and over again is there are lots of venues that people can look to get information about COVID-19 specifically. And for us at the health department, in Idaho, we have specific venues. We have websites that are available. We have call lines that are available. And this is true for most public health agencies, that they provide stream of information to individuals so that they can get appropriate and accurate information, which really does help with keeping people aware, but also making sure that that fear factor is reduced.
So you and I have been talking about this a lot. Having an epi at home is great because I pepper him with questions all the time. What is it going to look like when the orchestra gets back on stage? How are we going to do that? I know the Berlin Philharmonic presented a concert just yesterday where they were sitting, 14 of them or so, spread out across the stage. Talk to us a little bit about, I know, for instance, 2 meters is basically the amount of space between people on a normal day, and I think the strings can sort of accommodate that, but what other things are we going to have to start thinking about from the stage perspective?
Yeah, so social distancing is something I think that everybody is becoming very, very aware of. And knowing just what appropriate social distancing looks like, especially when you're in a musical context, you're on a stage, you're performing with people, different people will be putting out different amounts of air depending on what their instruments are. So of course you'll want to take more precaution for individuals that are utilizing more air when they're doing it. But again, one of the biggest things that we have to remember is that you're not unknowns to one another. Musicians typically that are playing together are not coming together from all walks of the earth to just meet together to play in a group and then run away.
When you go to an airport or a grocery store, right, for instance, where you have people coming from all over the place that are not in your orbit.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that known familiarity that will actually be a boon to individuals that are getting back together. Of course, as testing becomes more and more readily available, that will be helpful too. If individuals know that they have not recently contracted COVID-19, that will help reduce risk of individuals sharing that. Just making sure that people are using appropriate respiratory etiquette, people that are touching things, sharing stands, things that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, you have to be conscientious about those things. So you're not just going to pick up someone else's garbage and put it away. Right. You don't want to touch someone else's water bottle or things. You want to just be more mindful of your own circumstances in your own area and be conscientious that anything that you have that you're expelling could be in someone else's space. So coughing, sneezing, those types of things, of course, you have to be ever mindful of that.
So it will not be unusual, for instance, you might see the string players on individual stands rather than sharing a stand. You might see the wind and brass players further back and more separate because their air is propelled so much more. They may be playing behind the shields that we use on stage. There are all sorts of things that we're exploring now to determine when it is safe to get back together in the work environment, what that means. And that doesn't even begin to touch what happens in the realm of the audience and how that work's going on. So there'll be a lot of changes that occur. There may be more times like this where we spend our time virtually together rather than in real life, at least for a while. While we were talking, we got some new donors, and I want to thank all of the donors again. By the way, I want to make special mention again of the Teppermans who sponsor our Masterworks series and have for years, and the Toldos who've sponsored our Pop series for years. But also some new donors, Gail Stifler, Christine Vanderkoy, Patricia Hopper, Rebecca Topliff, and Tom, question from Tom Overton. The marimba work shows a lot of jazz influence. Was any of it improvised in the performance? Tom, not a note. All of it was written out, which is spectacular. And what's really cool is that Jisoo takes those notes that are on the page and she turns them into something that sounds as though she's composing right on the spot. Like you would have no idea that everything was really prescribed. So it was all prescribed. Oh, Caitlin Warblow is watching. Hey, Caitlin. She's asking, what are we drinking? So, Caitlin, these are old fashions. Next time we get together, hopefully soon, we will share one with you. But Brandon makes these. Brandon, will you share with our audience how you put these together while I drink mine?
So, yeah, I'm eating and drinking because he's talking, which is fine for me. It works out really well. An old fashioned is bourbon. We prefer Bullet bourbon. It's one of our favorites that we utilize. You can use a simple syrup. You use a little bit of agnostic bitters, can be any different type of
so
Agnostura is the name of it. Agnostic. Robert bitters is what I'm talking about. Yeah, Agnostura bitters.
I was like, not the Catholic bitters. We don't want the Catholic bitters. We want the agnostic.
Just an aromatic bitter. You can use whatever you want. A lot of times it comes with a twist. You can add a little water to it or seltzer if you want. And then, of course, one of the finishing touches that makes it really the old-fashioned is the cherry. But we utilize the Luxardo cherry, which is a very expensive yet delightful addition to the drink. So highly recommend it. It costs almost as much as the bourbon to get a bottle of the cherries, but they're worth it.
Now, Caitlin, I'm going to tell you something. You're actually supposed to put a little slice of the rind of an orange in, but did you? No. But we don't usually do that because
there are only two of us, and when we take
we don't want to waste the orange.
We'd have to eat the orange too, and we don't drink. It's all about presentation. We're presenting it to our mouths, so that's what we're enjoying.
It's true. That's exactly what's happening. Meanwhile, while we're going on about these old fashions, which are spectacular, with this chocolate cake of Christina's and this Girl Scout Thin Mint ice cream.
Right, it's just delicious. And if you haven't gotten your Girl Scout cookies, I know there are quite a few troops that didn't get to sell all the cookies that they wanted to. With COVID-19, I actually work with someone who has several boxes available. So if you're looking for Girl Scout cookies, I bet we could hook you up there too.
So 2 more donations in, one from Deb Severs and one from David Hardy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We also have, I should tell you, we have donors who've given matching donations this evening and before this evening. So every dollar that you give this evening is actually doubled. So that's a really cool aspect of this. So let me just check and see if I've got any more questions. Oh, Caitlin Warblow. Caitlin, thank you so much for your donation. How spectacular. Caitlin and I, we put this program together after a really fun trip, and I think I mentioned just a smidge of this in the video itself. But when Brandon and I were going to see Come From Away in New York, I'm a really bad friend. I didn't realize, Caitlin I know from a festival that we do in the summer, but I didn't realize that she was on Broadway, right? You kind of lose touch with people sometimes. So I looked down and I was like, is that Caitlin Warblow? So I looked in the program and sure enough it was. So I started waving at her. Brandon started waving. Eventually about 150 people on the balcony were waving at her. So if you've never seen Come From Away, the band plays on stage and they're warm up on stage. So we weren't waving, we didn't disrupt the show. So we're waving, we get her attention, and I'm like, Caitlin, it's me. And she's like, hey, Robert, why don't you come backstage after the concert? So we did all this hand signing, and eventually we went backstage, and we got a tour and met the cast of Come From Away. It was a spectacular evening. But on the spot, I said to Caitlin, would you please come and do your first show with the Windsor Symphony Orchestra? And she said yes. I also got a note that Douglas Neal and Barb Davis have donated this evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then, my favorite bakery in Windsor, Black's Bakery. They make really, really, really good bread. But, honestly, I've almost never met a bakery that I didn't love.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty flexible with that. But, Lynn Atkins asks, does the symphony own the marimba? That marimba that Jisoo played, because obviously she's not going to travel with it. And in fact, I have a little story about her travel. That was borrowed from our friends at the University of Windsor, SOCA, the School of Creative Arts. So we thank them much for that happening that evening. The night that Jisoo played, Jisoo is a faculty member at Peabody, and the way that she got to Windsor was by air, of course, through Montreal. So it was Windsor, Montreal, down to Connecticut, where her home is. And she got to the Windsor airport on Sunday the 15th, early in the morning, and they said, you're probably not going to be allowed back into the United States. And so she got on the plane from Windsor to Montreal, and the travel gods were with her, and she got over the border and back home safely. But when I tell you that concert that we did on March 14th was right on the edge of when everything was about to change, I mean, it was right on the edge. And so it's been really an amazing journey as we as an arts group and as an organization sort of reconfigure who we are and what we can offer and what we can do, which is why the Windsor Symphony Orchestra at home component of who we are is so important right now. I've got more questions. Oh, Caitlin asks, where did you get your glasses?
Which glasses? These glasses or those glasses?
I think she means the red ones.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was a little store in
it's on the
San Diego.
Yeah, on Hawthorne Street up in San Diego. It's a beautiful little area, and they had a nice little shop that offered them. So Robert got those.
So question for Brandon. Why is a second COVID wave expected to be coming and worse than the first?
So one of the things we have to remember is that because we shut everything down and locked down, for a better word, I mean, that's really what it felt like for most of us. We were trying to arrest the number of cases that were happening by not having contact exposure. And so we anticipate, because we've seen it continue to spread in other locations, that once we start opening things back up, that we will see individuals that come in contact with it. And I guess the reason we don't know would be the best answer for is it expected to be worse. We anticipate that it will still show cases, but I think it will vary from area to area to what it looks like. What we do know is that people who were effective at getting it shut down initially and didn't see a lot of cases could anticipate that that will happen, because there's no immunity in our systems. We don't have a population of individuals who have any immunity toward COVID-19, so it could be worse. And unfortunately, we don't know all the details.
Can you explain sort of the process of, once the vaccine is here, how herd immunity works? Because that's when things are going to change for us. Once we have a sense of herd immunity, which was a term much like folding eggs in chocolate that I did not know until COVID-19 occurred.
Yeah, it's one of those epidemiology terms that I've been happy inside that more people have been exposed to what my life has been dedicated to. Herd immunity deals with a number of people within a population that provide a protective barrier to individuals within the population who don't have an ability to have immunity or have something within their system that doesn't allow them to get what a normal vaccinated individual may get by developing antibodies that help protect. Our antibodies that our immune system generates are our warriors that help us keep ourselves safe from a lot of these illnesses that come from the various bacterial, viral organisms, fungal organisms. So with herd immunity, what typically has to happen is you have to have anywhere between 75 to 80% of your population of individuals that have immunity to any known illness in order for others within the herd to be protected from it. So if you had a group of 10 people, for example, and none of them had any immunity to it, it's likely that it will spread throughout the entire group and everyone will be exposed when they're together.
Right.
But if 7 to 8 of those individuals in that group are immune to it, and you have 2 that are not, when someone gets infected with it, the likelihood that it spreads to someone else is reduced to almost nothing, because you have 7 other people who are protective barriers against it for those 2 that can't receive the vaccine.
Right. And that's true
of course
all.
Just for vaccine. It also happens with active infection for most illnesses. However, because this is so new, we don't know what the antibody response is going to be for COVID-19. So people need to understand that as science watches the data that comes in and they analyze the data, we'll have a better idea of what antibody response is being generated from these infections, but we don't know that information yet.
I ask him these questions all the time at home. All right, new question. How do you choose which books to read for the libraries? So in case you haven't hooked into another part of our Windsor Symphony at Home component, I have started reading children's books. I do this for a couple reasons. One, for the last my whole career, 25, 30 years, I've been doing family concerts and education concerts. I love working with kids and I love telling stories, and I'm a bit of a ham, when it comes right down to it. And so I got the idea a few weeks ago that, well, maybe I should try reading one of these books aloud and I could sort of reconnect with some of my younger audiences. So I went through, the way I choose these books is I literally went through our library here at home, and I chose A, my favorite ones, and B, the ones that I felt like would sort of project well on a screen. So I started with my favorite children's book of all times. It's by B.J. Novak, and it's called The Book with No Pictures. And I just think that's hysterical. And I've read it to so many young kids who've been like, yuck, a book with no pictures. That sounds terrible. And it ends up being their favorite book. And in fact, since this went up online a week ago, I've had so many people write in and tell me, hey, this is my child's favorite book. I had to read it to them every night before they went to bed. Then I chose The Remarkable Farkle McBride by John Lithgow, which I love because it's the story of a boy and how he becomes a conductor. Seems logical. And then last I read Grumpy Monkey, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. I chose Grumpy Monkey because of the picture on the front of the book. It's hysterical. So if you don't own a copy of Grumpy Monkey, get it. I don't care how old or young you are. Grumpy Monkey needs to be in your library. And so that's where I started. I've got other books that are sort of in the works. And over the course of the next few months, myself, Daniel Wiley, our associate conductor, The mayor of Windsor is going to join us for one book. We're going to be reading books and creating a library of read-alouds that people can go to the Windsor Symphony webpage or the YouTube page and watch these videos. So that's where that is. Okay, let me see. Let me see if I have other. Oh, I just got a wonderful picture of someone in the hospital watching our concert. You know, just as a reminder, while this evening is super fun and we're loving being here, the reason that we're here in this way is because there's some people who are really suffering, and there's some amazing heroes in our community. Those first responders who are working right at the front lines and who are really keeping us protected on a daily basis. And that temporary hospital at St. Clair College, just extraordinary work and extraordinary people for what's going on. So we're super grateful to them. By the way, I mentioned that we were live streaming into the hospitals. This is, while the live streaming portion of it is new, the concept is not so new. We at the Windsor Symphony for years have been doing a program called Music for Health, where musicians go in and play for patients, particularly patients who are in a really bad way, many of them towards the end of their lives. And we've gone in and played music for them and had the most incredible experiences. So our project of Music for Health, now Music for the Front Lines, is just sort of an extension of that in a virtual way. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for tuning in this evening. Thank you for joining me as I hobbled through this chocolate cake, which is really kind of good. Thanks for joining us for the concert. Thank you to Caitlin and Taya and to Yisu. Thank you. To Yisu and Caitlin and Taya, thank you for allowing us. Thank you to the musicians of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra who are extraordinary. Special shout out to Tom and all the staff of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra who really made this evening happen. We are so appreciative of you, and we are so happy that we get to be a part of your lives, even in this really trying and difficult time. So everyone, stay safe. Take care. We have a new donor, Barb Proctor and James Hatt. Thank you both so much. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And we can't wait to see you again soon in real life. Cheers to all of you.